and welcome back to my channel. So today I have another Sims 4 speed build for you, and this one's a little bit interesting because I've decided that I wanted to make a home inside of a cave. I don't know why I decided that's something that I wanted to do, but it randomly came to me like a week or two ago, and I finally got a chance to sit down and work on it. So actually most of it is me just trying to figure out how to place all of these rocks. So I kind of just created the shell of what I felt like I wanted it to look like, and then I put rocks all around it. A lot of them are sized up or out of debug, and they're from multiple packs actually. And then I just kind of messed around with the exact shape of the house until it kind of fit well into the rocks that I had placed. But I thought this would be a good either like maybe off the grid kind of house for a sim, or even possibly like a rental house. This is actually in Granite Falls, and so that is a rental destination world in The Sims. But of course, if you download this off the gallery, you can put it anywhere you want to, whether it's a rental or just this is where somebody lives. And it is already on the Sims 4 gallery under my Sims ID Spice and Sprinkles, and it's all one word, and it's in the description if you want to check it out. And just for reference, the whole lot actually came out to be almost 40,000 simoleons, and then if you actually wanted to use it as a rental property, it was 403 simoleons a day. So actually it's not too horrible, but it turns out to be a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom home. And actually I thought it looked so adorable when I'm actually done with it. I actually love the way the interior came out. It came out really cozy, and I did actually make it to be off the grid, or at least the game says it is. So I believe I put the lot trait on for off the grid, and I also used objects from the off the grid like category inside of build and buy. So long as that category wasn't lying to me, you should be good to go, and this should be off the grid. And I did not include like any generators or anything like that either, because I didn't kind of want to mess with it. But of course, if you have eco lifestyle and you want to add generators and do collectors and things like that, you are of course more than welcome to, or do anything else you want to with this lot. But honestly, just trying to cover up the exterior walls of this build was definitely an interesting challenge. And I was trying to make sure that the rocks that I placed didn't like clip into the top of the build, because I didn't want it to negatively impact how your Sims can go around the house itself. I do have rocks that are sticking on the insides of the home because I felt like that might be realistic, like if you decided to live in a cave and you just kind of build in walls, but you kind of go with the shape of the cave, so you might have some rocks sticking out, if that makes sense. And I do end up actually changing the roof a bit. So I figured, since this is off the grid and it has to go off of its own light and there's not like a generator or anything, I actually decided that, you know, maybe whoever lived here, like this was going to be their home. So they actually put like a hole in the top of the cave. I mean, I don't feel like that's super realistic in real life, but I do end up putting like a roof piece on the top, and I made it glass, so it's like a skylight. So you do get some natural light inside of the home too. So you're not just relying on candles and things like that. And so I do end up creating that in the center so that you do have that extra light. And I do think actually it is fairly well lit, given that it is off the grid and it's in a cave. But I think it turned out really well. And you can see I'm scrolling through debug. I did that a lot because that's where I got a lot of the rocks and things from. And I like the rocks that I ended up finding that had like moss on them. It felt a little more realistic to me. And you can see that like overhang there, that's where the entrance to the house is actually going to be. But this is a sizable home, and I did make it on the gallery. It's a generic lot, and so I'm not actually sure how large it is, because I was curious if it would actually be designated as some kind of tiny home. And maybe it's just a small home because it is fairly large, but I'm not sure if it could be categorized that way. But that was me just putting in the glass roof there so you could actually get some light in. And I do end up putting a fireplace and like a furnace in there. I figured that would be necessary for either cooking or just keeping it warm in there. And I do put like one of those little like metal chimney things on top as well, because I figured, you know, that's kind of realistic. You would need it to be able to go somewhere. And then, so that was me when I was looking, and I was like, there's a big rock in the way. If you were actually trying to play in this build, like that would be a problem. So I did try to make it like player friendly, so you're not dealing with rocks everywhere while you're trying to tell your Sims like what to do and where to go, and so they can still access everything. And then on the outside, I do end up putting a nice little picnic area with a grill and a bee box and some planter boxes as well. So your Sims can kind of be self-sufficient and have some crops growing outside. I also put a clothesline out there as well. And I don't actually usually do that. I don't think I've ever actually used a clothesline before in one of my builds, but since this is going to be an off-the-grid home, like that makes sense. Like that's how you would have to do your laundry. And those pieces of fence there are actually out of debug, and they're from the outdoor retreat pack, but I thought that would actually fit really nicely here. And the reason I did it in Granite Falls was because of the lots that they had here. So everything was surrounded by woods, and it just felt like where it would belong. Of course, you can put it wherever you want in whatever worlds that you actually have access to. I just felt like aesthetically and for screenshots and things like that, that it would look really nice here. And actually the Sims that I end up using for the screenshots, it turns out they were an engaged couple. I didn't know that when I got them off the gallery, but that ended up being really adorable. And I actually did have them elope on the lot while they were staying here. So I had them take a vacation here. And so that was just super cute. Like I really enjoyed that a lot. And we do end up putting a fire pit out here as well, and the Sims loved that. Like they kept going out there to either roast marshmallows or to cloud or stargaze. They do that a lot. And I knew cloud gazing was a thing. I didn't know stargazing was, although that makes a lot of sense that you would be able to stargaze if you can cloud gaze. I mean, I feel like it'd be the same interaction. And so we're just kind of deciding how I wanted the pathing to work in this home. So like envisioning where your Sim would enter, how they would get into their cave. That sounds so ridiculous. And then how they would get to the other pieces of the lot. And then just adding in a bunch of vegetation. Some of it is from debug, but not all of it. But a lot of it is from the outdoor retreat pack, because it kind of made sense since I was in that world. It made it look like, I think it blended in a little bit more, because I try to make it look like it belongs there, and like I didn't want to put like palm trees, that kind of thing, out in the yard, because it just kind of wouldn't match very well. But I do actually end up changing out that door. I thought I wanted that like super rustic look, and that actually came with the werewolves pack. But then I ended up that I just really wanted it to be this like adorable cozy space, so I do change it out for a cottage living door. And I kept a lot of the tones on the inside a little bit warmer, and like greens and burgundies and things like that. I really went in with the green, and I guess that kind of makes sense. It's out in the middle of the woods and there's green everywhere, so I felt like that was kind of the inspiration here. This also could be just a vacation home for your Sims. Like, I mean, it's kind of totally up to you, but I wish we could actually have like rental properties in The Sims. Like, I wish your Sim could like own a rental property. Like, I feel like that would be really neat. Like, maybe somebody owns this and they would rent it out to other Sims. Like, I don't even know what it would take to have that kind of mechanic in the game, but I feel like that would be really interesting and something to explore. But I just add in a few things like a bird bath and just things that I feel like would be nice here on an off-the-grid lot. And of course there's no TV or stereo or anything like that, but there are books and gardening, so there's a lot of other stuff for you to actually do. You could always add an easel here as well. I feel like you would get a lot of awesome paintings from just painting like what the Sim sees. I forgot what that's called. Like actually having them like effectively take a picture of what they're looking at, and that's what they end up painting. I feel like you could get a lot of good paintings that way for this build. And then, of course, when I went to go take screenshots, it deleted my terrain paint. I feel like this is the story of my life these days. So sorry if some of the screenshots, the terrain paint is a little bit off, but I just had to kind of recreate it from what I had in memory. Because honestly, I didn't feel like going back into the footage and seeing exactly how I had it, but I think I matched it pretty well. So if there's a little bit of a discrepancy in terrain paint, I apologize. And so hopefully when you download it, it doesn't do that to you, but hopefully it's pretty easy to recreate that look if you would like to. And especially since I've kind of curved out where that path would be. And then I try to make sure there was enough lights outside. So if your Sims were outside, which I feel like if you were living in a cave, like you would spend some time outside, that you could actually still see. And I actually really like the way this looked with the rocks kind of interspersed inside of all of the walls. And I did make it to where it's kind of an open space into the bedroom. So there's not a door that goes into the bedroom. I felt like that also helped with just like it being open and being very spacious. And excuse those like random lights that I have there, but since I wasn't doing an on the grid house, I wanted to make sure not to put anything in the home that would use electricity. So I didn't want to use the normal saucer lights because I didn't want to forget to delete them back out. And so I just put those in there because they provided a lot of light for the time being, but those do end up going. But I wanted to be able to see what the colors really do look like when they are lit up. But I do replace them with some candles and, you know, more aesthetically pleasing things. Like, I feel like those are super intense, like, lamps. I don't even know if I've ever actually like recognized that item. Like, I don't think I've seen it. I don't think I've used it. I don't even know what pack that came out of, to be totally honest, but they end up going. I don't keep any of them. And then I decided that the exterior walls should be like stone, because I felt like, again, like playing into it being a cave, like maybe that's just kind of what it looked like on the inside. And then the stones that are actually sticking inside of the build do have a kind of interesting hue to them, but that's because they're inside and not outside. But I figured, you know, that's the best we can do given that we are building a cave. And I do actually end up creating like a custom like big shower here, and I think it actually looked wonderful. I end up putting in those big windows and just kind of, I think it added to it to being an open space and making sure that you can still see all of those rocks that are sticking inside of the home. And then I did play around and mess around a lot with like different windows I had access to see what I really wanted. But in the end, I do just end up leaving them as just plain windows, nothing really crazy, because I was also trying to decide what I wanted to do above that door. And so then I just added some smaller windows above the door to kind of make that fit in there. But we do have a double sink in here, so plenty of room for Sims. There is one like large bed in here, so you can easily fit 2 Sims. And I mean, honestly, like if you brought a cot or a sleeping bag or something like that, you could easily have more Sims with you. If you do use this as an actual camping like rental lot, you could add more in there. But I'm hoping that you do get some awesome use out of this, or just enjoy watching the video. And if you do have any other like ideas that you want to see me try out, and be sure to let me know in the comments down below, because I like hearing other people's ideas and things that maybe I wouldn't actually think of doing. But this is when I actually try to swap that like torch looking lamp out for other like candles and things like that that looked a little more normal. And it was interesting to try to find lights that were actually bright enough to show up in the room without it like having to put like a ton of them. And I actually end up using that like candle sconce in a lot of places because I like the amount of light it gave off, and I felt like it did match really nicely. And so after I did the bathroom, I used, you know, some touches of green. So that's when I decided I was going to go in on the green aesthetic in here. And I think this looks so cute, having the bed framed between the 2 big boulders that are coming in the walls. And then I ended up making this like custom dresser vanity looking thing. So I just intersected that large tall mirror and a nice wooden dresser to create that. And then just kind of keeping the decor a little bit simple. I do also put in a yarn basket and like a crocheting basket as well. I will note, because when I did the screenshots, I did use this as a rental lot and just had the Sims come here. You can't use those objects if you are renting it, because it says that your Sim doesn't own it. So just a heads up that if you want your Sim to be able to knit and crochet and stuff like that, and you do use this as a rental lot, you have to bring those items with you. So learn something new every day. But I love the way this turned out. I felt like it's just really cozy. There's still a lot of space. I mean, given that it's a cave, this is actually a really nice space to work with. I do also include a chess table in here as well, so that your Sims also have something to entertain them and build their logic skill, so they they don't need like a TV or anything like that. And of course, there's not a computer on this lot either, but you can always change it. It doesn't have to stay off the grid. You can do whatever you want with it, and so that your Sims actually have access to more electronics. Or you could also add like the generator, things like that from Eco Lifestyle, so that your Sims could kind of still live off the grid but still have access to like electricity. And all the appliances and plumbing I made sure to use out of the category for off the grid, so you shouldn't have a problem with that. So fingers crossed that the Sims actually put that in there correctly. And also the combination of I made sure I actually stayed inside of the off the grid category. I'm pretty sure I did. I apologize if I didn't, but I've never actually built an off the grid home before, or any kind of lot that's off the grid, but I think this would be really fun to actually play with. Or even if you put this maybe on a larger lot and expanded it and like added in some more like farming, I think that would be really interesting as well if you wanted to do something like that. But I tried not to use like too many packs. I say that, but I probably used like one item from like a bunch of packs because they just, you know, I picked what went well together. And I did struggle a little bit here in the living room with like what like look did I really want here, and like how modern do I want it to look, and like how like cozy versus cabiny like vibe I wanted. So I went through a lot of different rugs actually trying to decide what I wanted this to look like. This is actually a pretty large living space, and I was going to use that rocking chair, but honestly I just didn't like the wood tone. I didn't like any of the wood colors that came with it, so I ended up not using it, although I think it'd be a cute item to have here. I just didn't feel like it looked right. But I made sure to include a bunch of books and things like that, like because that makes more sense in terms of like what a Sim would actually do when they're here, is they would be using books and things to entertain themselves. And I added actually several pieces of clutter around, and it just felt like more lived in to me. And then just kind of changing the colors on the books so it looks like there's different books there and it's not the same book over and over again, which I feel like is kind of easy to do since we don't have a ton of options for books, although we've gotten more in some of the more recent packs. And of course I use that basket with pillows and blankets in it because it just I had to use it. Like I just felt like I needed to. And then when it came into the kitchen, this is actually a pretty sizable kitchen as well. And when I was doing this originally, these were the cabinets I chose, but in the off-the-grid sinks, I found that sink, and it actually belonged to like the other more cottagey look. This one was actually from the kit. You could easily swap that out, but the only reason I used those was because it came with this sink that was considered to be off-the-grid for whatever reason. What makes one sink off-the-grid and another one not off-the-grid, I honestly have no idea. But since I wanted to use that, I ended up using the cabinets that matched it and then using these brown appliances. And I felt like I struggled a little bit with how to deal with like that vent that's there for this stove and how to get that to blend in with the cabinets. Honestly, I would have put a cabinet over it, but the cabinet for this set has like open shelves so you can see the vent right through it. So that just looked a little funny. So I ended up just kind of putting in that plate rack over the vent, although realistically I don't feel like you'd be able to reach that. But, you know, here we are. So just adding a little bit of clutter here, and I had gone back and forth. Originally I thought maybe I would put in a dining table kind of in the middle there, but I ended up not, and just putting some dining chairs on this bar instead and leaving the center a little more open. But we do put this really cute like organizer on the wall, and I kind of did this like built-in shelving unit there in the corner so that, you know, they have a place to put things. And it is nestled between two rocks, although you can see like right there, depending on how you put your camera, the rock will disappear. So it kind of looks like it's out in the middle of the room, but it is wedged between two rocks, I promise. And then I did remember a trash can, so I was really happy about that. I felt like I was gonna forget about it. But your Sims can easily get around this island. There's plenty of space. And I do end up moving this item in a little bit, but I do keep it because I loved it a lot. I just felt like it was really nice, and I kept a lot of boxes and like baskets of produce, stuff like that, because I felt like maybe that's something that they grew outside since they are maybe trying to be more self-sustaining, that kind of thing, since they're off the grid. But of course, that's stuff that you don't actually have to take care of. It's not like it's the produce is going to go bad or anything like that. And I did struggle a little bit with what to put on that piece of wall over there, to be honest, because I knew I wanted something there. I just didn't know what that something was. And so I do actually figure out what I want to put there, and I think it looks really good in the end there, but it did take me a minute. And I love the way this like shelf organizer thing looks over here on this wall. Like maybe they use a space for canning and, you know, preserving food maybe they grew, keeping some plates and other things over there. And I think I put like a basket of linens underneath on that bottom shelf. And then I'm just adding in a few plants here, and I figured that's realistic. Hopefully they get light through the skylight, but I think it'll be fine. It's not like they're actually going to die, but realistically, you know, that may not be the easiest thing to take care of. And then I just end up adding a rug kind of in the center of the room, and I'm here being a little indecisive about what to put on that wall, but I end up putting a shelf that looks like it's got gardening stuff on it and like a little gnome, because I just felt like that would be really cute to have there, because I didn't want something that would like stick out of the wall and make it hard for your sim to walk around. But anyways, we are getting near the end of this video, so thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more like it. And of course, as always, if you have ideas, be sure to comment those down below. I would love to read through those. So I hope you have a really sweet day. Bye, everybody.